I grew up with a good foundation in what Hitler was all about. I knew what he wanted. I knew, you know, that Germans were the best people in the world, that minorities, particularly Jews, were bad people. And I didn't just learn that from my parents. I learned that from the people that we congregated with. When the war came around, I was still in high school in 1941. I graduated in 42 and went into the Army in 1943. And of course, the Army, knowing that I spoke the language and that I was born in Germany, really wanted to send me into the Pacific arena rather than into the European arena. And I made quite a case with the Army that I really would be better off being sent to Europe, because I did have a knowledge of the culture and I did have a knowledge of the language, and that I could probably be more helpful. They informed me that if I was caught as a German citizen, even in an American uniform, it wouldn't be too nice a world for me. But in any event, I went to England, and then I eventually ended up with the 11th Armored Division, who were the first division into the concentration camp of Mauthausen in Austria, which is about 10 miles outside of Linz.
The war had almost ended by the time Mauthausen was liberated on May the 5th, 1945, by the American 11th Armored Division. It was one of the last great concentration camps to be entered by the Allies. For any prisoner to be sent to the Mauthausen concentration camp was virtually a death sentence. This complex, with its 60 sub-camps, was amongst the most feared in the entire concentration camp system. Here the Nazis had taken the concept of murderous forced labor to its fullest 20th century expression.
When I first had contact with Mauthausen, it was the morning that the camp had been entered by earlier remnants of our group. But I guess the real impact of that thing came when I saw the first striped suit. And all of a sudden I began to see these people that looked more like ghosts. I mean, their eyes were glassy, they were just skin and bones. And it just kind of, it was just kind of weird, you know? I don't even know how to explain it, but all of a sudden you're seeing some things that are different. People aren't wearing uniforms, and they're not carrying guns, and they're not dying, but they're just human beings in striped shirts that look like ghosts. And the horrible thing is that when I stopped a couple of them and started talking in German to them, they went bonkers. I mean, I was just another German suddenly. It was the language, and it was just weird. And I just started to walk around and seeing these buildings, and I do still remember that I was in total shock. I didn't know what to believe. I didn't want to believe this. I really didn't want to believe it. And I remember going down these steps and walking into this big room, which was kind of like a huge empty hall. And there were meat hooks that were hanging off the wall. And there was blood on the walls. I just got very angry. I really got very angry. Coming into a room that looked like a shower, and I'm reading in German, shower room, and all of a sudden I'm seeing that this is not a shower room at all, but it's a gas chamber. I guess I really went into the realities of it all when I walked into the next room, which is where the furnaces were. And I saw these bodies stacked like cordwood, ready to be put into the furnaces. And I just seem to remember that I just ran out of there as quickly as I could, and I got upstairs into the courtyard, into the light and the fresh air, there wasn't any fresh air, and just, I felt such a terrible anger. I wanted to go out and kill every German I could find. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. And then I decided I would just walk around the camp and see what else was to see, and that's when I went into the quarry, where there were rocks and huge rocks. I found out about the quarry that this was the way that they diabolically executed people. They made them carry these huge chunks of rock up these steps, and then when they got to the top, they disposed of them. They went back down and were given bigger chunks to carry up, and they literally made them carry those rocks until every single one of them was dead. That's what they did. The thing that is most vivid in my memory, and something I think I'll never forget, is the number of steps that there were into that quarry, 186. Now that's a lot of steps if you think about it. I spent probably an hour in the camp walking around down to the quarry, trying to talk to people. And then I left. I had to get out of there. And I remember coming out, and there were some farmers in the field. I stopped the Jeep. I walked out there, and I said, "What goes on in that camp?" And they said, "We don't know." And I just wanted to shoot those people right then and there. I just wanted to shoot them. That you can be 100 yards from that camp, smelling what I'm smelling, and tell me they don't know what's going on. I don't think I'll ever forget the smell and all of a sudden the realization that the country in which I was born could do things like that. And then, right on top of it, right after, deny it right in front of the gates that it existed. I had one brother who was here in the United States in the American Navy, in the Pacific, who really denies the existence of the Holocaust and says it didn't happen, even though I've told him repeatedly that I was a witness. I had two half-brothers who were in the German army. One was in the infantry, and the other one was a medic who was killed at Leningrad. The one that went through the war and came out alive now lives in the vicinity of Cologne. And I vowed after the experiences that I would never, ever visit my relatives. I had a grandmother there. She was still alive after the war. My mother had a sister and innumerable uncles, aunts, and nephews. And I vowed I would never go see them. I did not go and see my grandmother. I did not go to see my mother's sister, as long as I was there as a soldier. When I came home, I vowed I would never go back to Germany. I did not go back until 1972. And the reason I went back is that I felt that there was a new generation coming into being, the kids, and that they were the ones that had to be educated as to what happened, and it was my duty to go back there and help do that. And I did, and I found some wonderful things. I found that those kids and their kids, my grandkids or my grandnephews and nieces, have been taught about the Holocaust and have a clear example and understanding of what happened, and they're better for it.
What about your brother?
My brother is a denier. My brother is a denier, the one in Germany and the one here. They have their excuses, and they couldn't do anything about it. If you did, you would end up in the camp yourself. And my question always is that if I knew that within 100 miles of me or even 10 miles of me there were a camp where they were burning people and doing what they did in these camps, that I hoped that I had had the courage to be in that camp myself and maybe end up in the furnace.